try to always remind yourself of perspective, right? And to just try to find something to be grateful for.
Welcome to Beyond the Bar podcast. I'm your host, Anisa Tova. And today we're joined by a very special guest, Ellen Jancko-Baken. She's a distinguished partner at Fredman Bacon and Overstern in White Plains, New York. And oh my goodness, she is a legal trailblazer. Over 3 decades of experience in matrimonial law. She has made her mark as a litigator, collaborative attorney, mediator, so many experiences. She's now serving as the president of the New York Association of Collaborative Professionals. And there's just so much there. And I have a pleasure of having Ellen on the show. Ellen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here with you.
It's been a long time coming. And we chatted a little bit. So let's rewind a little bit. So about 3 or so decades in the family law, what pulled you into this field, and how would you say your approach has changed over time?
That's a great question. I didn't start in matrimonial law. When I went to law school, about 6 years after graduating college, I ended up working for a small securities litigation boutique firm in the city. And it just didn't resonate with me. I enjoy helping people and being able to, just be able to help people in a way that you can't do in securities litigation. So I ended up going into matrimonial law. And frankly, I spent a couple of years, 2, 3 years with another practitioner, and then ended up working for Neil Fredman. And I've been with him ever since. My journey has changed quite a lot. I enjoyed litigation when I first came into this field, and over time got to learn and realize that it's just not the favored journey for people transitioning in families. I mean, these are families we're talking about. So, litigation demands that people be in conflict, unfortunately. So my journey has changed from the thrill of litigation to the thrill of being able to help families transition in a way that will allow them to come out the other side in a healthier way.
That is such a huge mission. I know that is not a job. That is a career, and then such an important role. Before we continue and talk about that, I'm curious. So going back, and we shared a little bit of that as we share a similar background. Tell me about your upbringing.
Sure. I actually was raised in a very rural area in upstate New York that got completely packed in the summertime from people escaping the city. It was actually in the 1930s and 40s a place where European Jews came to escape the city. I was raised by a single mother, and my grandparents lived in their apartment upstairs from us and had a very big impact on me. My grandmother was an activist, socialist, somebody that believed in helping people. In fact, my mother once told me a story I didn't even learn until I was an adult, that she came home one day to go play her piano, and my grandmother said, "Oh, I gave that to the Union Hall. I gave it away to the Union Hall. They needed a piano." So she was very much into community activism, and I took away a lot from that. And I think we briefly spoke about this yesterday. I like to be involved in making a difference. So I am involved in a few organizations on their executive committee and their boards. I just like to make a difference. I think it's important to my welfare, not just the community's welfare, but more especially my welfare. So that's had a deep impact on me, as well as my mother, who was also involved in a lot of different things. So that's where I come from. That's the place I come from. Get involved, make a difference. So
Yeah, do. That's right. And we
yeah.
did have that in common. And I think you mentioned your grandfather came from former Czechoslovakia.
Yes, yes, he did. And that's what you and I have in common. I mean, you're a little more directly from there, but yes, my ancestry is from Czechoslovakia in part.
And listening about your grandmother and your mom, pretty much reminds me of my upbringing. It's just, a way to resolve any issues, sort of the cure to any problems was you get doing, you get going, you get moving, you make a difference, you get moving, you just get doing. And
That's right.
so,
That's right.
being involved in so many different organizations and rallying people around a certain cause, getting them inspired, motivated to take action. How do you do that dealing with so many personalities?
You just do what you believe in, and if people are interested, they come with you. If they're not, they don't. And there's been times I've been disappointed when people say they'll help and they don't do as much. But for the most part, you find the people that are interested in doing. It makes certain people are just that way, right? They just are into doing. And my value system that I was raised on, both from my religion and from just the people who raised me, is that you don't play the victim. You just go and you do. And believe me, there's plenty of people that feel the same way. So I don't have a problem with different personalities or different levels of, you know, uh, busyness, so to speak. And that's, if you want something done, you ask a busy person to do it. That's my motto,
Yeah, I
right?
love that. Yeah, I love that. Yes, yes. And there's a role for everybody, and it's a spotting who has what to bring to the table. So you mentioned victim mentality, going through divorce. I mean, you really meet people at their worst, their shadow side, so to speak. And and that's tough, who are wrapped in emotions. How do you bring in sort of your own value system without becoming sort of entrenched in that conflict? How does that show up in working with your clients?
Well, first of all, I will say it took me a few years. I mean, I really did take this home, and I aligned with my clients, which was not good for them and certainly not good for me. It's taken me a while, but I am now in a different place. I guess I just walk the fine line of making my clients feel validated while also trying to get them to look at the silver lining or what there is to be grateful about, and to try to hold their fear. I try to hold it in my hands and walk with them, and try to slow them down and say to them, this is a big journey. Let's take it one step at a time. We will get to the other side with the appropriate support that you need. And we have to just figure it out. Obviously they come in here a mess, most of them. Some of them can't wait to be divorced. But I mean, for the most part, and you did, I think you used, I forget whether you use the word dark, but there's a lot of dark emotions that come along with this. And the need for things that I try to push them away from, the need for revenge. They're angry, they're afraid, and that just doesn't help anybody. But you have to let them get from point A to point B. You can't force people to. And you know what? Sometimes I'm just not the right attorney for some people. And that's okay also, right? If somebody really wants, that's what they want, their revenge, their day in court, sometimes it's just not me that should be doing it with them. So that's also something good to know.
Hmm.
So
I like that. I heard someone say, "It's very, very, very successful entrepreneur. You sort of bring in this with or without you energy, so you're not aligned with outcome whatsoever. You sort of are able to meet them where they're at, and kind of through your own upbringing circumstances, you're able to lean into what is coming.
right,
And if they're willing to be reasonable, and regardless of emotions will come along the way, but if they're willing and motivated to go through that process with you, you will
right.
accompany them on their guide them through that journey.
That's
It's
right.
it's a very it's a tough role. Um, you are a big sports fan.
A big sports fan. Did I say that yesterday? Yes,
I
I'm a big
I know it.
sports fan. That is what, if you were to ask me, what do you like to do in your off time? The answer would be watch sports, go to sports. I love it. I just love it. I'll tell you what I love about it, in case you're wondering. I
Yes.
find that especially now with the deep divide that we find in our politics, in our country, when you bring people together for a team that you're rooting for, the energy and it's a healthy energy, right? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
that serious. It's a sports event. It's not like we're talking about, save, curing cancer. But when you bring people together in one big place, all rooting for the same thing, it actually could raise the hair on your arms. That's how exciting it is. So I do love it. And a side benefit is that my son loves it, and I get to spend a lot of time with him. And he and I recently flew to Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship to root for his team, Penn State. Then we flew to the Miami for the Orange Bowl to watch his team lose there too. But the experience together is just, I just love it. So yes, I am a big sports fan.
Is it any particular sport or just
No,
many?
I love all sports. And by the way, the other thing I love about it is I am in awe at what human beings can do with their bodies to achieve the highest, that's why I love the Olympics. I just can't believe what people are able to do with themselves. It's really something. So I honor that as well. And I enjoy watching it. Yeah.
That is so cool. No, it's so funny you said people are not as divided, right? When they're watching and they're rooting for their team, assuming I'm just thinking about some of the people I witnessed, including my husband, who is very much a passionate Minnesota Vikings fan, and the agony that
Oh,
that he's been feeling, every Sunday because they haven't won, Super Bowl for a long time. And some of his friends and our colleagues, when I talk to them about football, they're agonizing. And
it
so
is agonizing. It is
yeah,
agonizing,
yeah,
but that comes with it, right?
in a good
It's
way.
like
Yes.
it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So it's better
Yeah.
to be involved than to. I mean, it is agonizing. Believe me, when Penn State lost both of those games, it was agonizing. But yeah, that's part of it. That's the part of it that
Yeah.
you have to just take with it all. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, no, and then the other part is pushing yourself to see what your body can do. I think the Olympic athletes, I mean, everybody has a goal, but but if you're sticking to a system where you basically show up regardless what your feelings are telling you to do, to feel, if there's a system and you do that repeatedly, you basically will achieve a certain outcome. Because everybody is striving for that goal, and the discipline,
Yeah,
it is amazing. It's just
it is
doing it
amazing.
in and out regardless how you feel.
It's
Now with the
amazing.
balance, going back to a balance, because the career that's as intense as yours, I also heard that you're a big reader.
I am a big reader. Yes, I read a lot. I read every day. I just love to read. So that's my escape. When I need some quiet time, I read all kinds of books. I read, autobiographies. I read about places that matter to me and what's really going on. I read fiction when I really want to escape. I just love to read all kinds of books, and that's the other the other passion I have is reading
Do
and
you
knitting.
read
Knitting, reading, and sports. Those are my three things.
reading and sports? Those are great outlets. Do you read actually hard copy books, or do you have a Kindle or?
I read on the Kindle. I was one of those people I couldn't believe that I could take my phone with me and have access to thousands of books, which I do. And I love that. It's like Beauty and the Beast when you walk into that library and you see the books go up to the ceiling. That's how I feel. That's on my phone. So I love that. I share it with my family. I have a younger daughter who's a rabbi, so she reads a lot and she puts all kinds of stuff on there. So I get to, just check things out. I just love it. It's one of my
Um,
passions.
there's a
Yeah.
there's a comfort. There's a comfort to, at least for me, there has always been, my mom, she raised us to read, I mean, classics, and whether we liked it or not, we had to read, and then it sort of develops into passion. And but there was a sense of comfort for me reading lots of books. And like you, I feel like when I'm with the phone, with my iPhone, there's access to information, and it's books, and it's podcasts, it's educational stuff, and just soak it up. And sometimes it's just like a mental floss, right?
It's great. The one thing that I probably am not good at is social media. I find it to be very upsetting, actually, to me. So
Mhm.
I say to myself, well, you only have one life to live, we think, anyway. And I don't want to it upsets me, some of the things that are said on there. So I do avoid being on social media a lot. And I know that's not a great thing for business, but that's one of the things I do to protect myself, my sanity. So I read
Yeah, I
instead.
guess depends how you use it, right?
Yeah, I guess. I just don't know how to use it productively, right? It's kind of like an all or nothing for me. So yeah, it's working for me so far. So I'll stick with it. But
Now you mentioned your children, they had chosen very different paths.
very different paths. Yeah. My oldest is a comedy writer. My son in the middle is an accountant, and my youngest is a rabbi. She's a reform rabbi. Yeah, it's crazy, crazy, but good for them, right? Happy for them that
Yeah.
yeah. So they follow their passions. They follow their passions. I guess the steadiest one is the accountant. So, but I've always supported my children's dreams. I mean, to me, that's life, right? I mean, to that's I know you have to support yourself, but it's great to do it in a way that makes you feel fulfilled. So,
Yeah. If you I know that people like to ask this question a lot, but I'm really truly curious. Just kind of even watching, so the advice that you received from your mom, your grandmother, that being shaped by that upbringing, and then watching your own children. If you were to give yourself advice, your 20-year-old self advice, what would it be?
you know what? I have no regrets. I think that it would be go for what you want. I mean, I came from a single mother household, poor. Did I ever think that I would be able to go to law school? No, I never did. But I did it. And I really think that I do a great job. And I get a lot out of it. You mentioned the word balance before. Do I struggle with that? I do. I do struggle with that balance. And as I'm getting older, I'm looking to stay doing what I'm doing, but with more balance because, it's when are you going to do it? So I think the advice I would give is I, I, I wouldn't change anything I've done. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't change anything. So there you go. That's crazy, right? I mean, could I have done things better? Sure. Could have been a better mother, maybe. My kids would say, oh, they love, they think I did a great job, but I could have done things a little differently or better. But yeah, that's how you learn, right? So I don't think I'd do anything differently, which I'm happy to say, you know?
What would you say was the biggest challenge for you that you had to overcome, and what had you learned from that?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for me was believing in myself. I never, very often didn't feel like I fit in because I came from a rural, poor background. And actually, my husband and I ended up settling in Scarsdale. Could you imagine that? It took me
Mm.
years to feel like I belonged there. And then I realized I belong anywhere I'm at, right? But it took me a long time to feel comfortable in my skin. It really took me a long, long time. And now I just belong wherever I am. But that was a struggle for many, many years for me. So,
Wow. What would be a advice to incoming attorneys?
oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. I think my advice would be I'd have a lot of things to say. Number one, be creative. Don't don't just read a case and say, well, that's the case. That's the law. No, 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 no. If you feel you have a good argument, law is made by attorneys who come up with good arguments and who are able to find exceptions. And so don't be creative. Listen carefully to people and really be able to spot issues. I mean, I don't have that's the one thing I will say that I am really good at. I don't have the answers to many of them. I have to go look it up, or I have to go call somebody like you, or I have to, but spot those issues. Know this is an issue. Don't just, let it go. Don't be lazy about it. So issue spotting, be creative, be a good listener. Those are the things I would say. And I mean, I know that there are a lot of people that graduate law school and go on their own. I could never have done that. I needed a mentor. I need to, be with people and practice with people and hear what they have to say. That's just me. But, even if you're on your own, just be creative, listen carefully, and that's the advice I would give.
I like it so much. I've interviewed dozens of professionals, and I've heard about, mentorships and ask questions, but I don't think I've heard the creativity. As attorneys who create the law, be creative, see what you can do with that legal argument, think outside of box. That
Yeah,
is great. That is
yeah.
terrific, terrific advice. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Wow.
feel strong. That's one of the things my partner Neil and I love to do. We'll sit in a room and talk about how can we make this happen? How can we convince the judge of this? It's fun. Sometimes, listen, sometimes you just don't have the facts behind you, but sometimes you do. And you can't just say, I've had associates work for me and go, oh, forget it. No, they can't do that. I'm like, you go in there and find a way. And let's see. Come back to me in about, by tomorrow. But anyway, that's the fun of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
We're not just robots. We're supposed
no,
to, right. So use our mind, use our brains.
use your
That's
mind.
yeah,
Yeah,
use your mind. Use your mind. So
yeah.
it's
No, that is so profound. Well, and you're married to an attorney, right?
I am married to a labor and employment attorney. He practices labor and employment law. So it's a little
How long
different.
have you been married?
It'll be, let's see, I got married in 1984. So what is that? 41 years. It'll be
Yeah,
41
wow.
years this year. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the secret?
Respect.
Hmm.
Um, my mother-in-law once said to me right before we were married, never let your children be more important than your relationship. I know you're going to love your children, but never let that be more important than your relationship with each other. And we didn't, because they come and go. They're gone, and we're still here. And if you forget that, that's a lot of people come to me. They don't even know their spouse anymore. They turn their attention to their jobs and their children, and so never forget what's most important. And we're very lucky. I mean, we are lucky. That's even when you do that, you can get unlucky. And I am grateful for that because we're not just married, we're happily married, and that's wonderful.
I have goosebumps right
I
now.
know, I'm
That
lucky. I'm really lucky. I am.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
so profound. It is courageous to say that, and it's just so true. It lands so well because and I think as you get older together as a couple, it's good to know that you can be, kind and gentle with each other and sort of, you know, take care of each other as you move to the next phase in your lives and it's almost like I look at it as treating each other as best friends
Right.
because
Oh,
there are
of
certain
course.
things, certain way you wouldn't talk to your best friend.
Right. That's
Um,
right. That's right. I
yeah,
mean, listen, it's not easy getting older together because you
no,
see in the other's face and in the others losing their hearing a little bit and that frustration of we're getting older. That's not, I don't want that. So that
yeah,
like scares you. That's a challenge actually. But
yeah,
you got to remind yourself it's a challenge. So
yeah,
that's my secret to a happy
yeah.
marriage. And
Wow,
luck, and luck, and luck. I will say it again. Takes a lot of luck. It does.
that not do not lose sight of that. Very, very important. So, incoming attorneys who get out of law school and they're focused on building their career and finding the right partner. I mean, that is a great advice, so they don't end up in on the same path. Um, what are some, this has been such an enjoyable chat. What would be a parting advice?
Oh, I don't know.
Thoughts?
In terms of what? In terms of, I just think that we have to always remind ourselves of what we have to be grateful for because life can really, I mean, I had a terrible, tragic death in my family a couple of weeks ago. And we just have to remind, my 38-year-old niece lost her battle to cancer a week ago Sunday. And I just am trying to, so I guess the answer is just try to always remind yourself of perspective, right? And to just try to find something to be grateful for. And I think you'll approach your days, even your clients. I mean, listen, I go into court, I'm a mess. Still a mess. Every time I go to court, I have to sit in my car and ground myself because people are relying on me, but never let that overtake you. And I'm speaking to myself as well as to you. So it's a challenge, but that's my parting advice. Find something to be grateful for every day.
And there's plenty.
And there's plenty. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Ellen,
So
thank you so much for sharing your insights, your thoughts. This has been really, truly powerful. And I cannot wait to have you back. Something tells me that you will be back. Thank you so much.
thank you for having me, Denisa. Take care.
And to our listeners and viewers, if you'd like to learn more about Ellen's work and how to get a hold of her, you can check out the links below. And do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Beyond the Bar Podcast. Follow us on social media. And until next time, stay curious and stay inspired.